Hello there and good afternoon. My name's Don Arleth and you're watching Midday Report coming to you live from Warsaw. Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre arrived in Kyiv on Monday for a visit aimed at underscoring the deepening support and solidarity between Norway and Ukraine. The head of the Norwegian government met with both Ukrainian Foreign Minister Szijjártó and Andriy Yermak, the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. The three officials discussed Norway-Ukraine relations and partnership. Store's visit to Kyiv on Monday coincides with the broader diplomatic engagement as Germany's Vice Chancellor and Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil also paid a visit to Kyiv the same day, reinforcing European commitment to Ukraine. The visit also takes place one day after Norway pledged $700 million to enhance Ukraine's air defense, which includes providing munitions for Patriot air defense systems and supporting the Ukrainian defense industry.
Mr. President, I have announced that Norway's high level of support to Ukraine in 2025 will be continued into 2026. So that means, translated into currency, you understand, $8.5 billion in 2026, which I will propose to Parliament. We are, together with the UK, working on the maritime dimension. You have important maritime interests along the Black Sea. We are making progress on that. And we take your clear signal, Mr. President, about the drone dimension. So we are part of the drone coalition. We are now investing in Ukrainian industry.
Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó has called on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy to, quote, stop threatening Hungary and to end the reckless attacks on our energy security, end quote. Now, Szijjártó expressed concern over the continued supply of Russian oil to Hungary via the Druzhba pipeline, which has recently been restored after Ukrainian strike on a pumping station in Russia. Our correspondent in Kyiv, Alex Karol, has more.
This story, of course, those strikes on the Druzhba pipeline interrupting oil flow, Russian oil flow, into Hungary. There was frustration expressed by the Hungarian Prime Minister, some anger expressed by the US President as well. And then we had the Foreign Minister of Ukraine saying that the attack on the pipeline was an attack on Hungary's energy security and an attempt to drag its country into the war. Now, President Zelenskyy was asked about that at a press conference that we were at yesterday with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Zelenskyy said Ukraine has always wanted friendly relations with Hungary, and that the existence of the Druzhba pipeline now depends on Hungary's behavior. Now that, of course, was taken by the Hungarian foreign minister as a threat. He was posting on the social media platform X saying that President Zelenskyy used the national holiday to threaten Hungary, and that he firmly rejected the Ukrainian president's intimidation. He says that he regards sovereignty and territorial integrity as fundamental values, and that an attack on energy security is an attack on Hungarian sovereignty. That will be received rather skeptically from Kyiv, particularly because of Hungary's cozy relationship with the Kremlin, certainly Russia not respecting territorial integrity and sovereignty here in Ukraine. We've had a response now back to that from the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Undersea, saying that he will reply in a Hungarian manner to his Hungarian counterpart, saying there is no need to tell the President of Ukraine what to do or say or when. He is the President of Ukraine, not Hungary. He added that Hungary's energy security depended on Budapest itself. Effectively, this war of words now continuing between Ukraine and Hungary. One more point I'll make just to wrap on this. Hungary will have to phase out Russian oil by the end of 2027 anyways. That was a point that Undersea, the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, said, phase out Russian oil like everybody else in Europe, but for now the war of words continues.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says that Ukrainian and U.S. teams will meet at the end of the week to discuss prospects for future talks between Kyiv and Moscow. Zelenskyy announced the meeting at a joint press conference with the Norwegian Prime Minister in Kyiv on Monday.
Today, there will be a meeting with U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, to continue this topic, to work on preparations for the possibility of future meetings with the Russian side. At the end of the week, there will be a meeting between the Ukrainian team and the American team, which will include U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East Steve Witkoff, and U.S. President J.D. Vance, or some of them.
Russian strikes on Ukraine continue despite the latest efforts to broker a peace deal. 2 people were killed and 33 others were wounded over the past day. The latest Russian attacks targeted multiple regions of Ukraine. In Kharkiv, an 82-year-old woman lost her life and 3 others suffered injuries. Moscow strikes also hit the Dnipropetrovsk, Sumy, Donetsk, and Kherson regions, wounding civilians and wreaking havoc. Ukraine managed to shoot down 76 out of the 104 drones launched by Moscow overnight, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. President Karol Nawrocki has vetoed the amendment to a law on assistance for Ukrainian citizens. He argued that the bill did not include changes debated publicly, specifically those making the 800-plus child benefit conditional on employment in Poland. The amendment, which the president declined to sign, aimed to extend temporary protection for Ukrainians fleeing the war until March 4, 2026. It also clarified eligibility for the 800-plus child benefit, providing parents equivalent of €180 per month for each child, so that it would cover Ukrainian children who completed secondary school before turning 18 and continue their education at a university or vocational training courses. During the legislative process, Law and Justice Party lawmakers proposed similar conditions, including linking the benefit to employment or running a business in Poland and tightening rules for obtaining Polish citizenship. Their proposals, however, were rejected.
Poles in their own country should be treated on an equal footing with our guests from Ukraine. That's why I vetoed the bill on assistance to Ukrainian citizens in its current form, while at the same time proposing my own draft law and encouraging the government and all political groups in the Polish parliament to work hard over the next 2 weeks on a new version of this bill.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting Warsaw today and is meeting with his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk, as well as President Karol Nawrocki. With defense and security high on the agenda, we're now going live to our reporter Diana Skaya, who's in front of the presidential palace. Good afternoon, Diana. So what have these talks focused on so far?
Hi, Don. Well, actually, about half hour ago, Prime Minister Mark Carney actually just left the presidential palace. He did meet with President Karol Nawrocki. Their meeting lasted a little under an hour, but I just want to take you back to Prime Minister Carney's initial meeting that took place earlier this morning between him and Polish Premier Donald Tusk at the Premier's office. Now, Mark Carney is here for the first time in Warsaw as Canada's Prime Minister. Now, a lot of the things they talked about wasn't only about defense, but they are, as Donald Tusk said, they're going to establish a further strategic cooperation among many industries, including cybersecurity, aviation, defense, like you said. Let's not forget that Poland is Canada's largest trade partner in the region. Now, Canada is also going to be the lead country at the 2026 International Defense Industry Exhibition that's going to be held in Poland. Now, Carney also says the agreement with Poland is going to drive European demand for Canadian exports. And of course, they spoke about how to further support, cooperate together with other EU countries in supporting Ukraine. Don?
All right, a lot to talk about, a lot still to discuss. There's Diana Skaya in front of the presidential palace in Warsaw. Thank you. The captain of the Eagle S oil tanker and 2 of his senior officers appeared in a Helsinki district court today, charged with aggravated sabotage and aggravated interference with telecommunications. Prosecutors say that the crew dragged an anchor for nearly 90 kilometers across the seabed in the Gulf of Finland last Christmas, severing 5 undersea cables linking Finland and Estonia. The accused include Captain David Vada Chikoria of Georgia and 2 officers, 1 Georgian and 1 Indian. All 3 deny the charges and claim that the anchor dragging was a maritime accident. Finnish authorities, however, argue that the damage was foreseeable and possibly intentional. The incident caused an estimated €60 million in damages and posed a serious threat to public safety. The Eagle S, registered in the Cook Islands and suspected of being part of Russia's shadow fleet used to bypass sanctions, was seized by Finnish forces in a dramatic operation involving helicopters and armed boarding teams. The crew has been under travel ban since the investigation began. Speaking with TVP World, Teivo Tivinianen from the University of Helsinki said the history of the Eagle S tanker seems to suggest that it belongs to Russia's shadow fleet. The professor's statement comes as the trial over the vessel, the anchor of which damaged the undersea power and communications cables in the Gulf of Finland last Christmas, has begun in Helsinki.
It kind of fits what we know about the so-called Russian shadow fleet that operates. There's always a degree of deniability that is sought there with murky ownership structures and all that. So it's Russians have made it difficult as possible it is for them to make it to sort of track particular vessels to Russia. But there are many indicators that this is very possibly and perhaps likely part of the Russian shadow fleet. I assume this is one of the aspects that will be brought up in the court case today that started today here in Helsinki. Also aging tankers, the history of this particular vessel, it all seems to fit within the Russian shadow fleet idea, but part of the idea is the deniability, and the Russians are obviously denying it.
Now to controversy in Sweden after a daily paper reported that a cleaner at Arlanda Airport in Stockholm discovered a folder containing what appeared to be secret government documents in the airport restroom. The authorities in Stockholm have confirmed that the incident took place, but have not provided further details. The folder was found after Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson's trip to Turkey in 2022 in connection with the country's NATO accession process. Authorities said that parts of the folder's contents were classified. It remains unclear, however, for how long the folder was missing before the cleaner found it. And the incident has sparked a storm of questions about security procedures within the Swedish administration. France has summoned the U.S. Ambassador Charles Kushner after he wrote a letter to Emmanuel Macron alleging that Paris had failed to stem anti-Semitic violence. Kushner published the open letter in the Wall Street Journal, in which he focused on France's criticism of Israel and its plans to recognize a Palestinian state. Kushner wrote that public statements concerning Israel and gestures towards the recognition of the Palestinian state embolden extremists and endanger Jewish life in France. According to the ambassador, in today's world, anti-Zionism is equal to anti-Semitism. The French Foreign Ministry quickly responded, refuting claims and saying that such allegations are unacceptable. Furthermore, the Foreign Ministry statement also said that Kushner's comments went against international law, in particular provisions banning diplomats from interfering in internal matters of states they serve in. Later, the U.S. State Department said it stands by comments made by Ambassador Kushner, saying that he is doing well to advance American national interests as a representative of the United States in France.
Gotta move, people. We gotta get in.
And that concludes this edition of Midday Report. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and stay with us for more here on TVP World.